There's a lot of reasons why Rudy didn't deserve that potion. For one, he's physically like 7. Why the man even tried to sell it to him to begin with? Granted, there's a lot of different races in this world, from like anthropomorphic designs to demons and things like that, so I mean, at this point, I could maybe argue, maybe the merchant's like, maybe he's like some other race, or maybe he's like, he's just nobility, he's got money, and he's a young boy who knows what young noble boys want to do. I'm gonna take advantage of the situation. But the fact that it was bought for him by Eris, who I have a very scary feeling was probably the one he was going to use it on, and then it broke, is the most comedic and hilarious and frightening thing that could have happened in this show, especially in an episode where he literally gets his ass kicked for trying to feel her up and technically did succeed in this episode. This show has no chill, but it is so goddamn exciting and entertaining. It's one of those shows that, like, bad actions don't go rewarded so far. I mean, in this episode, he cops a feel, and then he gets his ass kicked. And then he gets these perverted thoughts about how he can manipulate women who probably don't want to sleep with him to that extent, as even if he could at this point in time with his physical body. And then it gets broken. I love how this show like doesn't necessarily reward shitty behavior, but you also see the progression in his character. This is one of those shows that you're not necessarily supposed to look at Rudy as someone to admire and wish you were. You're looking at Rudy and you're saying, yeah, that's a shitty act, but clearly he's getting better than where he started out, especially considering how he ditched a funeral of, if I'm not mistaken, the funeral was for his parents, and he was decided to jerk off all day instead of going to his parents' funeral. So he's definitely improved, but I love how this show isn't afraid to show you the shitty sides of humanity, and the fact that it can present it in such a hilarious way at times, and then when it is completely creepy and disturbing, it doesn't feel like that shit gets rewarded, and, you know, even if they do get away, it's not like that's like your moral compass, so to speak. This show is exceptional, and it got like banned in China, I think, but then again, China, like, you can't even browse Twitter without a VPN because that government controls everything, so I'm not really shocked that that shit got banned over there. But it is kind of funny because in comparison to what's airing in this season, there's far worse that should have got banned if we're saying this is too extreme. But Jobless Reincarnation continues on the technically slice of life adventures of Rudy being a teacher to Eris, but also training Big Mom over here who doesn't know math, can't read or write, and needs to do it because otherwise the next time she has no one that can do that for her, she'll have to continue to eat monster shit, which then gives her the runs. The show's humor is incredible, and I absolutely love it. And I think, based on the pacing, I mean, obviously I don't know the source material, but given the fact that the first core is 11 episodes, I imagine because he's going to be there for 5 years, and then he'll probably go back home, and then they'll go off to Magic Academy School and things like that in the second core. I have a feeling that the first core is going to end with probably the time skip and then him returning home or something to that nature. Then again, we could walk into 2 episodes from now and they already skipped 5 years. But based on the pacing and how they've transitioned from him being a baby to him being like 7 or 8 years old, I really doubt we're going to jump to him being 12 in an episode or 2. But then again, the show can do a lot of things and probably have it work quite well. But I'm appreciating that we had so much time with stuff like Sylphie and him in the village, and now seeing this like larger city and going to the markets and things like that. I love the idea of the cultural identity that they have here and the mixture of races, and then just him casually walking home and seeing a giant floating fortress, and no one but him is freaking out. Most people would be like, what in the actual hell? But because that's just common occurrence, and the stories that he was read as a child weren't fairy tales. There's so many things that you can explore before he returns, and I think it's going to provide for a lot of growth for his character, and it's going to be very fascinating to see what his relationship with Eris will be, because you know damn well he's hot and bothered by the girl. He's feeling her up in his sleep. Doesn't matter that it's his cousin. This man has no chill. And it's going to be fascinating to see what her perception of Rudy will be, because she clearly likes the guy to some degree, but the idea that he's already teaching her some pretty valuable morals despite lacking morals himself where it counts. But the idea with like the concept of money and how he's saying like, as much as I want you to buy me this book, it's not your money to spend. You should obviously wait till you have your own money because I get paid this much, she get paid this much. maybe if you get an allowance. And while he didn't get the book, he got something that he also wanted, just it kind of cracked and burned because, well, that's kind of what he deserved in that situation, given what he did to her in this same episode. This is the type of character who has a long way to go before he's not completely shitty, but you are seeing the progression, and you are also seeing the positive influences that he has on characters such as Eris, who started off as the most spoiled loudmouth brat ever, and we're now seeing her actually willing to study and learn, especially if she gets information on heroes, which clearly she wants to be one, given her enthusiasm towards the whole topic. But I think the thing that caught me off guard the most was the grandfather in this episode. This man, you understand where all this loudmouth behavior came from in terms of Eris. This man comes in screaming up a storm and he's not even mad. Watching this whole thing, I was like, okay, this is a man who clearly wears the pants in this relationship, and the relationship being this entire family by the looks of it. He can punch his son and he'll still be thanking him and bowing to him. And the fact that he can scream across the whole building and then Eris will come running being like, did you talk to him for me? The thing that I love is that he's just as easily manipulated as Eris herself, because our boy Rudy takes advantage of her cluelessness a lot of the times, and he did the same thing being like, you know, I would make a lot more sense if she would obviously ask herself, because you wouldn't want her to grow up and not be able to ask things politely. That's an amazing point. I didn't think of it because she's my cute granddaughter. You go do this now. I love how it's so over the top, but the thing is, I was ready to love this character and just move on with my day seeing that concept. And the fact that he makes her apologize and thank and things like that as like a beast woman basically, because these two lunatics are just so enthralled by beast characters. This show has no chill. It is hilarious. It's a head scratcher, it can be creepy, it can be a lot of different emotions, but the fact that it shows you all sides of the wickedness of fantasy anime that most don't show you is one of the many things that makes this show so damn engaging, because it just makes you say, this is exactly how nobility probably would act given a world with beast characters. One thing that I think a lot of people probably won't give a lot of attention to in an episode as hilarious and heartfelt and creepy as this is the location design, the scenery. There was a couple of shots that really took me back, and I said, holy shit, the level of detail put into the architecture, the world, the market that they went to. It's the finer details that help flesh out a world and give it world building without the need of characters talking about a long history of demon lords and things like that. Just seeing the different buildings that we're seeing here in comparison to the village, we're already starting to expand the world in our own mind, and understanding what this world looks like, feels like, and functions like, and just the casual remarks of what things are costing in terms of the market price. It's the little details that makes the show really feel like it's a fleshed out world, rather than just a backdrop for these characters to interact with. As simple as going to the market is, it easily could have been a fun slice of life scene. I would actually argue it added to a lot of world building in a very subtle but noticeable way. That's one of the many things that I love about this show, is it's not afraid to technically take it slow, but by using its insane personalities, it really lets a scene be exciting even if you are just buying apples in a market as someone flirts some horny potion your way. It's just ridiculous. It's insane and I love it. And for an episode that's most action was her setting a bed on fire and him getting his ass beat by a wooden sword, which sometimes those moves, I wonder how his neck doesn't snap because it looks a little too painful. This was a very exciting episode, and I'm loving the cast and how they're fleshing out, and how everyone's kind of learning from the other, and just, it feels like a family who's known themselves for a long time. The difference is, well, this family's a little more creepy in the sense that, well, cousins are about to get together, but I mean, that's anime for you, I guess. I'd love to know everyone's thoughts and feelings, though, on this week's episode. Did you enjoy it as much as myself, and if not, what was wrong with it for you? And where do you think it might go with next week's episode? Do you think we're going to remain with this core being in this time period before we skip, obviously, 5 years? Or do you think it's going to happen quite fast? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.